Imagine living in one of the most exclusive neighborhoods in Washington, D.C., where the homes are worth millions, the streets are quiet, and everyone feels safe. But one warm May evening in 2015, that illusion was shattered forever. Behind the doors of a luxurious mansion on Woodland Drive, an unimaginable horror was unfolding. And by the time it was over, for people would be dead. This is the story of the Savopoulos family, a respected, wealthy family whose lives were brutally cut short in one of the most disturbing crimes the nation's capital has ever seen. A crime that mixed greed, cruelty, and terror in ways that still haunt investigators to this day. Savvas Savopoulos was the CEO of a successful martial arts company. He was a well-known businessman, admired in Washington's high society. His wife, Amy, was elegant, kind, and devoted to her children. Their 10-year-old son, Philip, was bright and full of life. And alongside them was their loyal housekeeper, Veralicia Figueroa, a hardworking woman who had served the family for years. Together, they lived what appeared to be the perfect life in their multimillion-dollar mansion. But beneath that calm, polished surface, evil was lurking, and it was about to strike. On May 13th, 2015, something sinister entered their home. It started quietly, almost unnoticeably. There were no signs of forced entry, no alarms triggered. Whoever came that night knew exactly what they were doing. For nearly 24 hours, the Savopoulos family and their housekeeper were held hostage inside their home, a night of terror that would end in blood and fire. No one outside the house had any idea what was happening behind those locked doors. The neighbors went about their lives, unaware that just a few houses away, an entire family was being tortured. The Savopoulos' friends tried calling, but their phones went unanswered. Their chauffeur received strange instructions, orders that didn't sound like Savvas at all, but he obeyed them anyway. And as the hours ticked by, the horror inside that mansion grew darker. By the next evening, smoke was seen rising from the home. Firefighters rushed to the scene, thinking it was a routine house fire. But when they broke through the heavy smoke, what they found inside would haunt them forever. For bodies, bound, beaten, burned. Savvas, Amy, their young son Philip, and Veralicia were all dead, victims of a calculated, sadistic home invasion. The scene was gruesome. The killers had doused the house in gasoline before setting it ablaze, hoping to cover their tracks. But even in the ashes, investigators found clues, traces of a plan driven by greed and revenge. A plan that pointed to someone who had once been trusted by the family. This wasn't random. This wasn't chance. This was deliberate. A hostage situation turned massacre, and the killer's identity would soon shock the entire nation. Because when police began following the trail, they uncovered a name that no one expected, and a motive that was as simple as it was horrifying: money. No screams were heard. No glass was broken. No neighbors noticed anything strange. That was the most terrifying part. Inside the Savopoulos mansion on May 13th, 2015, time slowed down. What the public would later call the DC Mansion murders didn't happen in a quick burst of violence. It happened slowly, deliberately, almost calmly. Whoever came into that house didn't rush. They controlled everything. It started with Savvas. He was the one the intruder needed most. He was the head of the house, the one with access to money, the one whose words the staff obeyed without question. If you control Savvas, you control the house. And that's exactly what the attacker did. Savvas was restrained. Then Amy. Then 10-year-old Philip. Then the housekeeper, Veralicia. For people, all inside their own home, now prisoners. What happened inside those walls over the next 22 hours has never been fully told. Only reconstructed from phone records, text messages, and the strange instructions sent out from that house. But one thing is clear. They were being kept alive for a reason. Money at some point that day. A message went out to the family's driver and to employees. Instructions to deliver $40,000 in cash. Not a transfer, not a check, cash. The message sounded like Savvas, but people who knew him later said the tone was off. He sounded rushed, nervous, not like himself. Still, no one imagined he was under duress. This was a wealthy CEO. He made unusual requests sometimes. So the money was gathered. While the outside world was moving, the inside of that mansion was suffering. Amy was there, a mother, tied up in her own home, listening to her son somewhere else in the house, not knowing what was being done to him. Imagine that, knowing your child is in danger but being unable to move. That's not just violence. That's psychological torture. Philip, only 10, was the weakest in the house. And in crimes like this, the weakest is often used to control the strongest. If the parents even thought about resisting, one look at their son would end it. The housekeeper, Veralicia, was also restrained. She was loyal to the family, trusted. That made her valuable to the attackers, but it also made her a witness. And witnesses, in crimes like this, rarely walk away. As the day went on, the request from the house grew stranger. Savvas told people not to come by. He said Amy was sick. He said the family needed space. He said the housekeeper had stayed overnight. Excuses that, under any other circumstances, would have passed without suspicion. That's how good the plan was. Make everything look normal until the money arrives. And eventually, it did. By the evening of May 14th, the cash was dropped off, just as the intruder demanded. That should have been the end of it. They got the money. They could have left. But that wasn't the plan. Whoever was inside that house never intended to leave witnesses. Not the businessman, not the wife, not the child, not the housekeeper. The money was just step one. Step two was silence. Forever. What happened next turned a hostage situation into one of the most brutal murder scenes Washington, D.C. has ever seen. When the cash was safely in their hands, the people inside that mansion should have lived. That's how most ransom situations go. Get the money, disappear, leave the victims tied up. But this wasn't that kind of crime. This was colder, smarter, meaner. Whoever held the Savopoulos hostage knew something dangerous. The victims could identify them. Savvas knew them. Amy could describe them. The housekeeper had seen them. And young Philip? Even a child can say a name. That meant one thing. No one was leaving that house alive. That's why what happened next was so vicious. Sometime after the money was delivered, the atmosphere in that mansion shifted. The purpose, which had been control, became elimination. The family was no longer useful. The money had already been removed from the house. Now the priority was to make sure no one could talk, and no one could trace what really happened inside those walls. The first act of violence had been psychological. The fear, the threats, the 22 hours of being held in their own home. The second act was physical. They were attacked. They were beaten. They were bound. They were left helpless. Asterisk reports later revealed that at least some of the victims showed signs of blunt force trauma. That means it wasn't just a quick execution. There was rage in it, frustration, maybe even revenge. It was as if the killer was punishing them before killing them. And then came the most chilling part of the entire crime. The fire, the killer, or killers spread gasoline around the rooms. Not just one spot, multiple places. This wasn't an accidental fire, not a kitchen incident, not bad wiring. This was an intentional attempt to burn the scene and destroy evidence. Why burn a house? Because fire erases things. DNA, fingerprints, fibers, even timelines. That if the house burns hot enough, investigators have less to work with. And if everyone inside is dead, the truth burns with them. So the fire was set, a beautiful DC mansion, the home of a respected, wealthy family, was turned into a furnace to cover up the brutality inside. Flames spread fast. By the time firefighters arrived, the house was already filling with smoke. First responders thought they were dealing with a house fire. They weren't. They were walking into a crime scene. Inside, they found what the killer hoped they wouldn't. Bodies. Savvas Savopoulos. His wife, Amy. Their 10-year-old son, Philip. The family's loyal housekeeper, Veralicia. All 4 dead, tied, beaten, left to burn. A whole family. Wiped out in one day. It didn't look random. It didn't look like a stranger just happened to pick that house. It looked targeted, and that's when detectives started asking the most important question in any homicide. Who knew the family well enough to pull this off? Because this wasn't a smash and grab. This wasn't kids breaking into a rich house. This was patient. This was organized. This was someone who knew the schedule, knew about the money, and knew how to control Savvas. And within hours, a name would begin to surface, a name tied not to the family's inner circle, but to someone who once worked around them, someone who had been in their orbit, someone who knew the house, someone who wanted more. The fire was supposed to erase everything, but it didn't. Arson can destroy a house, but it can't always destroy a good investigation. And in this case, the killer made one small, stupid mistake that would blow the whole thing open. Inside the burned mansion, amid the wreckage, investigators found something that shouldn't have been there. Pizza. Not a full box. Not delivery leftovers from the family. Fresh pizza, ordered while the family was being held hostage. That detail told detectives 2 things. The killer was inside the house long enough to get hungry that he was confident. Maybe even comfortable. So they traced it. Detectives contacted the pizza place. They checked the delivery records. And what they found was chilling. The order had been called in from inside the Savopoulos home. Meaning, while the family was tied up, the person holding them was relaxed enough to eat. Who does that during a murder for money? Someone who thought he had control. The pizza box and crusts were sent to the lab. And when the DNA results came back, a name appeared. A name that would soon be on every news station in the country. Daron Wint. Not a random stranger. Not a career hitman. Not a fellow CEO. A former employee. Wint had once worked for American Iron Works, Savvas' company, which meant he knew who Savvas was. He knew Savvas had money. He knew the family was wealthy. And he would have known enough about the business to believe there was cash he could get his hands on. So now detectives had a motive, money, a connection, former employee, and physical evidence, DNA on the pizza. It was enough to issue a warrant, but Wint didn't wait around to be arrested. The moment his name hit the system and the case became public, he ran. He was seen leaving in a car with other people. This was important because it suggested he wasn't acting alone. The way the crime was carried out, controlling 4 people, getting the money, setting the fire, escaping. It was hard to believe one person did it all, but proving that would be harder. Still, police locked onto Wint. A multi-state manhunt began. U.S. Marshals, local police, federal agents. Everyone was looking for him. The case was big. Rich family murdered in D.C.? That doesn't stay quiet. Days later, Wint was found and arrested in Maryland. That he wasn't alone. He had cash. He was moving. Guilty behavior. But even after the arrest, one question lingered. Did he do it by himself? Because think about it. Someone had to pick up the $40,000 that someone had to drive. Someone may have helped him leave the house after setting it on fire, the official story would say. Wint was the main attacker, but many people, even now, believe others were involved and never charged. What investigators could prove was this. He knew the family that he was inside the house. His DNA was there, but he left after the money arrived, and 4 people were dead. That was enough to take him to trial. But the horror of this case wasn't just that a rich family was killed. It was this. They were killed by someone they once paid, someone who knew them, someone who saw their lifestyle and decided he wanted a shortcut to it. Greed turned into torture. Torture turned into murder. And murder turned into fire. When Daron Wint was finally brought in, he didn't look like the mastermind behind one of the most brutal family murders in Washington, D.C. He wasn't a cartel boss or a trained killer. He was a former welder, a man who once worked for the very man he was now accused of killing. And that contrast, ordinary man, extraordinary cruelty, made the case even more disturbing. From the start, prosecutors were clear. This was not a random crime. This was targeted. Someone knew this family was wealthy, knew they had access to money fast, and knew that if you scared a father with his 10-year-old son in front of him, he would do anything you said. That was the heart of the state's argument. They laid it out like this. Wint once worked for Savvas Savopoulos. That he knew the business handled cash. He knew Savopoulos was a man who could get money quickly. He was at the house. They had his DNA. And when the victims were found, the scene had been burned to hide evidence. To a jury that already looked bad. But what really tied him down was the pizza box. That stupid, careless piece of evidence. People can argue about fingerprints. People can argue about eyewitnesses. But DNA on food eaten inside the hostage house while the family was alive? That's hard to explain away. Wint tried it. He said he was being framed. He said other people had access. He said he didn't kill anyone. He even claimed there were others involved, which, to be fair, a lot of people still believe. And that was the one strange part of the whole trial. The feeling that not everyone was in the room. Because let's be honest, holding 4 people hostage in a big house, forcing a cash drop, killing them, spreading gas, and setting a fire, all while keeping things quiet. That's a lot for one person. Even trained criminals don't like working alone on jobs like that. The prosecution acknowledged that other people may have helped, but they didn't have enough to charge them. What they did have was one man whose DNA was inside the house during the crime. So they kept the case simple. Even if others helped, Wint was there. Wint participated. Wint didn't stop it. That's murder. They played the timeline for the jury. May 13th. Family goes silent. Strange texts and calls from Savvas. $40,000 in cash delivered. May 14th. House on fire. 4 people dead. Motive? Money. Method? Control. Cover up? Arson. They showed photos. They showed the burned rooms. They reminded the courtroom of the worst part. They kept a 10-year-old boy alive through the night. That wasn't necessary for robbery. That was leverage. And it was cruel. The defense tried to poke holes. They said, "Where are the other people?" They said, "Why is there no video?" They said, "How does one man do all this?" And they were right to ask, because a lot about this crime still feels unfinished. But in the end, the jury didn't need to solve every mystery. They just needed to answer one question. Was Daron Wint part of it? And the evidence said yes. When the jury came back, the courtroom was silent. This wasn't just another DC case. This was a case that had terrified people with money, people with staff, people with big houses. Because if a family like the Savopoulos could be held hostage in their own mansion and killed in one night, then nobody like them was really safe. The verdict was read. Guilty. Daron Dylan Wint was convicted of murder, kidnapping, burglary, and arson in the deaths of Savvas Savopoulos, his wife Amy, their 10-year-old son Philip, and their housekeeper, Veralicia Figueroa. The judge didn't mince words. This wasn't a crime of impulse. It wasn't a fight gone wrong. It was planned, cruel, and heartless. The court said what everyone already knew. These people were kept alive only long enough to get the money, and then they were executed. Wint was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of release. On paper, that's the end. But in reality, it wasn't, because even after the conviction, even after the sentence, even after he was taken away in cuffs, people were still asking the same question. Did he really do it alone? That question has hung over this case since day one. Here's why. The crime took nearly 24 hours. 4 people were controlled, including a child. Cash was picked up and moved. The house was set on fire, and the suspect fled with help. That doesn't feel like the work of just one man. During the trial, investigators hinted that others helped. Drivers, people in vehicles, people who knew about the money. But there was never enough to charge them. So officially, Wint became the face of the murders. Even if, quietly, people in law enforcement believe more people were involved. That's what makes this crime so unsettling. It wasn't random. It wasn't a break-in. It wasn't a burglar surprised by a family. It was a targeted attack on a wealthy family by someone who had once worked in their orbit, and that's the part that chills people the most. The idea that someone who once walked into their office, smiled at them, collected a paycheck, later returned to their home with zip ties, gasoline, and an ultimatum. For the victims' families, no sentence could fix what happened. Savvas, a husband, a father, a boss, gone. Amy, a mother, friend, kind to everyone, gone. Philip, a 10-year-old boy who did nothing but exist, gone. Veralicia, a woman who showed up to work, gone. 4 lives erased because someone wanted fast money. In the years after, the DC mansion murders became a cautionary story in elite circles. Don't trust everyone who's had access to your life. Wealth attracts eyes. Access creates opportunity. And some people, when they see luxury up close, don't just admire it. They start imagining how to take it. But there's one more haunting angle to this case. The fire was meant to burn the truth. It didn't. The pizza was meant to be lunch. It became evidence. The killer thought he was smarter than everyone. He wasn't. In the end, the Savopoulos case is the kind of story that sticks because it breaks 2 illusions at once. That money can protect you. That danger always comes from outside. Sometimes it comes from someone who already knows the gate code. And that's what makes the DC mansion murders not just brutal, but unforgettable. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel using the link below.